Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there is. Families can be deported together.
Let me ask you about another group of people, the estimated 4 million families in America who have mixed immigration status. So I'm talking about parents who might be here illegally, but the kids are here legally. Your borders are.
You're talking about separation?
Yeah, well, I mean, there are two aspects to this. Your borders are, Tom Homan said, they can be deported together.
Correct.
Is that the plan?
Well, that way you keep those. Well, I don't want to be breaking up families, so the only way you don't break up the family is you keep them together and you have to send them all back.
Several months later.
New controversy tonight over the president's deportation actions. Right. The Trump administration is defending sending a 2-year-old U.S. citizen to Honduras amid concerns from a federal judge. And an order issued Friday, U.S. District Judge Terry Doty scheduled a hearing next month in the case, saying he had a, quote, strong suspicion the government just deported a U.S. citizen with no meaningful process. A spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security said the mother of the toddler made the decision to keep her and her 11-year-old sister in her custody during her deportation, despite pleas from her father to keep the children. This as protests broke out in Milwaukee following the arrest of a Wisconsin judge for allegedly obstructing an immigration arrest on Friday. U.S. officials allege County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan tried to help a Mexican national evade ICE by allowing him to exit her court through a jury door last week. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers, in a statement, accused the Trump administration of, quote, threatening to impeach or remove judges who do not rule in their favor. FBI Director Kash Patel posted a picture of the judge's arrest with the caption, "No one is above the law."
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I gotta tell you guys, I think that it is over for Obrego Garcia, right? Because Democrats have found new toys that they would rather play with, right? Than the illegal immigrant gang member that is currently in El Salvador, right? In his home country. He was deported there, rightfully so. And Democrats spent the last 3 to 4 weeks boohoo-whining and crying for him to come back, okay? Even going to El Salvador to try to kidnap him and bring him back to a country that he's not a citizen of, right? To take him from his home and to bring him back to a foreign country. That's crazy to me, right? Absolutely insane stuff for the Democrats, okay? But they're done with Obrego Garcia because now they have a new toy, right? Some new toys that they can play with, right? They have the woke judge out of Wisconsin that was arrested for helping illegals evade ICE or attempting to help illegals evade ICE, obstructing justice, okay? She was rightfully arrested. It's such a solid case that even the mainstream liberal media, they are admitting that, yes, the case is solid, but, you know, hey, we feel like we have to be opposed to President Trump no matter what, which means that the judge was right? She was right to try to smuggle out illegal immigrants to help them evade ICE because Trump is Hitler, right? That's essentially the argument that they're making, okay? So, again, Democrats are just desperate to grasp and to latch on to any story that they can to boohoo, whine, and cry about President Trump doing exactly what the American people want. And we have another story that the Democrats in the liberal media, they're going to boohoo, whine, and cry about, right? Because now the narrative is that President Trump is deporting U.S. citizens, except the liberal media does not explain that these are likely anchor babies, right? Which means that these are babies of illegal immigrants who came into the country probably with the intentions of trying to have a baby so that they could not be deported, right? So that they could stay here forever. And President Trump and Tom Homan made it clear, basically before the president even got into office and when he first got into office, that that's not going to slide, right? We're not going to allow that to happen, okay? And now you have people that are boohoo, whining, and crying. The media, they're boohoo, whining, and crying about President Trump and Tom Homan doing exactly what they promised they were going to do when it comes to keeping families together.
3 U.S. citizen children have been deported with their mothers. Now, this is according to the Washington Post. The family's lawyer says one of them is a 4-year-old with stage 4 cancer, deported without medication or ability to contact doctors. The family's lawyers are also saying their clients were denied communication with family and legal representatives before being deported. And it's raising concerns about the issue of due process, that it's being violated. So let me ask you, is everyone on U.S. soil, citizens and non-citizens, entitled to due process?
Yes, of course. But let me tell you, it looks in immigration standing, the laws are very specific. If you're in this country unlawfully, you have no right to be here and you must be removed. That's what the law says. Somehow over the last 20 years, we've completely lost this notion that somehow or completely adopted this idea that yes, we have immigration laws, but once you come into our country illegally, it triggers all kinds of rights that can keep you here indefinitely. That's why we were being flooded at the border. And we've ended that, and that's why you see a historically low number of people not just trying to cross our border, trying to cross the border into Panama, all the way down in the Darien Gap. I mean, it's been a huge help for those countries as well. On the headline, that's a misleading headline. Okay, 3 U.S. citizens, ages 4, 7, and 2, were not deported. Their mothers, who are legally in this country, were deported. The children went with their mothers. If those children are U.S. citizens, they can come back into the United States if there's their father or someone here who wants to assume them. But ultimately, who was deported was their mothers who were here illegally. The children just went with their mothers. But it wasn't like, you guys make it sound like ICE agents kicked down the door and grabbed the 2-year-old and threw him on an airplane. That's misleading.
Yeah.
That's just not true.
Just to be clear, because I do want to get to the overhaul at the State Department, is it the U.S. policy to deport children, even U.S. citizens, with their families, and I hear what you're saying, without due process, just to be very clear there?
Well, no. Again, if someone's in this country unlawfully, illegally, that person gets deported. If that person is with a 2-year-old child or has a 2-year-old child and says, I want to take my child with me, well, then you have 2 choices. You can say, yes, of course you can take your child, whether they're a citizen or not, because it's your child. Or you can say, yes, you can go, but your child must stay behind. And then your headlines would read, U.S. holding hostage 2-year-old, 4-year-old, 7-year-old while mother deported. So the parents make that choice. I imagine those 3 U.S. citizen children have fathers here in the United States. Yeah. They can stay with their father. That's up to their family to decide where the children go. Children go with their parents. Parents decide where their children go. Right. The U.S. deported their mothers who were illegally in America.
Mr. Secretary.
Facts. Again, this is so funny to me. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't, okay? Because these are the same people who will be up in arms, boo-hoo, whining, and crying. We've seen this. We saw them, right? Boo-hoo, whining, crying at the border during President Trump's first administration, okay? AOC and the rest of the lunatics, right? You're separating families. You can't do that. You can't separate families, right? These are the same people who are now going to be boo-hoo, whining, and crying about President Trump going out of his way to not separate families, right? To not separate a child or children from their mothers. The mothers were lawfully deported, okay? They had deportation orders, and they wanted their children to go with them. So are we supposed to keep the child here and deport the mother? Because if we do that, then the left, they'll be boo-hoo, whining, and crying about family separation and say, oh, you can't separate families. So what Democrats want, right? This is what they want. This is the only logical conclusion, okay? Because, again, they complain when they deport the anchor baby and the parents, right? When they send them back to where they're from, they complain about that. Wrong, okay, according to the left. It's also wrong when you keep the baby here and you say, okay, well, they can stay because they're a citizen, and then you send the mother back to the country that she's from. They say, oh, well, that's also wrong because you can't separate families. So the only logical solution, okay, that I can think of that the left wants is for the mother and the baby to stay, right? Which in and of itself would be a loophole that illegal immigrants would take advantage of in order to stay in the United States of America, right? A lot of illegals will understand, okay, if I could just get to America and get pregnant, right? If I could just have a kid in the United States of America, then, hey, I'm good to go, right? Which is why we should end birthright citizenship, right? It shouldn't even be a thing, to be honest with you, okay? We should just allow people to come over to this country and to have kids, and now all of a sudden the child's an American citizen and the mother can stay or the parent can stay or whatever. And it's like, nah, that's not how this should work. Okay, that's not how it should work at all. Even though in this situation involving the woman that was deported back to Honduras, it is unclear whether or not the father is an American citizen because presumably he is. But when asked to verify his identity, he was very hesitant to submit the documents and to meet with ICE agents to discuss keeping his daughter here in the United States of America or taking custody over his alleged daughter. So, I mean, the father is sketchy, right? And that's part of the reason why the mother was deported with the daughter. Well, the reason why is because the father failed to prove his identity and that he was who he claimed that he was. And because of that, the mother, again, who had custody of the child, hey, we had to go ahead and deport him, right? It is what it is. Okay, now the child can come back. Okay, if the father is a U.S. citizen, okay, he can go to Honduras and go and bring his kid back, right? That's what he can do. Or the kid can come in when they're an adult, right? They can come back into the country, right? But as of right now, we're not separating any families, okay? So if you are an illegal immigrant and you come over here and you think that you're going to stay because you have a kid or whatever in the United States of America, no, that's not how it's going to work. You're not going to be immune from deportation because you come over here and have kids. No, you're going to be deported. If you want to keep the kid, fine. Because we're not in the business of separating families. But again, it's not going to help you stay, right? It's not going to help you stay. Okay, that's a loophole that Democrats allowed, and we're closing that loophole. And they can boo-hoo, whine, and cry about it. Oh, due process, this, all that. Man, again, where was the due process in the rule of law when Biden was letting all these illegals into the country? Where were these people boo-hoo, whine, and crying? Where were the judges trying to stop Biden from allowing our border to be invaded by these illegal immigrants in the first place, right? Again, it's just funny how that works. When you try to actually enforce the law, now all of a sudden that's a problem, right? These judges want to try to jump in and they want to play hero. They want to play save an illegal. That's what they want to do. But they didn't give a damn about the rule of law, about the Constitution, about due process when Biden was flooding the country with illegal immigrants. So yes, things like this are going to happen. And I'm not falling for these sad sob stories. I'm just not going to. Okay? You're not going to get me to think with my emotions. No, I'm going to think with my brain. I understand ultimately at the end of the day, okay, cool. The child and the mother, the parents, they want to be together, fine. But, you know, the parents here illegally, they got to go. And we're not trying to separate families, so we got to deport them all together. And the kid can come back, you know, just with a vetted guardian that is a U.S. citizen, or they can come back when they're an adult, and that's it, right? It is what it is. And if Democrats are so upset about it, then they can go to Honduras and boo-hoo, whine, and cry too, right? Just like they went to El Salvador. But I think going to Honduras is going to be a lot more dangerous than going to El Salvador, right? So you're not going to see too many Democrats going to Honduras. But if they do want to go to Honduras, if they think this is a good political move to go to Honduras, hey, sign up, be my guest, Democrats. Please take that trip. Take that trip to Honduras. In fact, I will support any efforts to get Democrats to fly to Honduras to try to grandstand over an anchor baby. Okay, I think that if Democrats want to take that trip to Honduras, a dangerous country like Honduras, hey, be my guest, right? Be my guest. Who knows? These people are so insane, they might do it, right? They might go to Honduras and try to rescue the anchor baby and bring her back here to the United States of America. That's what they're going to be doing now, right? That's what they're going to be doing. They're going to be saving the anchor babies. You know, probably a year or two ago, I would have thought that, oh, that's insane, right? That would never happen. You would never have these politicians going overseas and trying to bring back anchor babies and illegals. But this is definitely something that the Democrat Party, the modern day Democrat Party in 2025, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually try to do that, right? Maybe I'm giving them too many ideas here. I don't know. I'm just saying that I just wouldn't be surprised to see them try to make this like, again, they're a hill to die on. They're desperately looking for one. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.